did you come from? Like out the sky into my life now.
Hey, what's up you guys? It's Sukari here, and in this week's video I'm gonna be showing you guys how to turn a basketball into a handbag. So I previously made a basketball bag and I wore it on my Instagram and literally everybody went crazy. Here's the bag. So in this week's video I'm gonna be showing you guys how to make your own. You're gonna need quite a bit of supplies to create this handbag. So first off, I'm gonna start with the supplies you'll need in order to make the handles. So I have this handle here that I never completed, but I figured it'll be good to show you guys. Within this handle, there's chipboard, craft foam, and then the outside material is leather, and then ultimately you'll have a grommet that goes through all those materials. I'm going to show you guys how each of those materials look before you turn it into your handle. To make a top handle like this, you're first going to need your pattern paper because you need to make the pattern for a handle like this. This is how mine looks. You're also going to need craft foam. Craft foam gives the handle a nice durable luxury look, and it also makes it nice and squishy and it makes it look really cute. You're also going to need chipboard. I purchased my chipboard from Blick. This is how it is. Bendable on one side and kind of stiff on the other, and this is used to basically make the handbag a little stiff and durable so that you can actually put stuff in the handbag and your handle won't warp because of the weight of the stuff that's going into your handbag. You're also going to need some of these grommets, but keep in mind that when you buy grommets you also have to buy the Grommet Punch and the Grommet Setter, so it may just be better for you to just go out and get your handles grommeted opposed to paying like $20 for the set. So keep that in mind. You're gonna need the material that you plan on using for your handles as well. If you're gonna use leather, keep in mind that you're gonna need a skiver or a hand skiver. And I don't know about y'all, but it takes me a minute to hand skive, and I don't have an industrial skiver. So if you don't have a skiver, I would suggest you staying away from leather for this project unless you're using a super thin leather. I would stay away from leather and probably get like a nylon fabric for the handles, but that's just my 2 cents. For those of you who don't know what skiving is basically taking away a layer of the leather from the nubuck side, the underneath side, and making it thinner. Therefore, it'll turn easier on the curves of the handle. If you don't do that and you have leather, it's not going to turn nicely. It's going to be a bulky mess, and it's not going to look really nice on your handbag. So if you don't have a skiver or super thin leather, use fabric. Personally, I don't like carrying handbags that have metal chains without having the little leather shoulder pad right here. So if you want to make that, you can use the material that you plan on using for your handles, but be careful if you're using fabric because it will fray. So I would suggest you use leather. You don't have to worry about skiving the leather for this because we're going to do it raw edge, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So get you some leather, a little scrap piece that we can use for the shoulder strap. You're going to need some chain for your shoulder strap. A yard will suffice. You're also going to need 2 D-rings as well as 2 rivets for this project. Now I'm going to move on and show you guys the hardware and all the other stuff that I use directly on the basketball. I cannot do that thing. Okay, let me try it. Ready? You're going to need a basketball. I'm using the basketball by Spalding, and this is 28.5-inch diameter. You're also going to need a zipper. I'm using this zipper by YKK, and it's a size 10. You're going to need some double-sided tape, and not the one that they sell in Staples because you're going to have to sew through this. So get you one that they use in handbag construction. A basketball pen. It may seem minute, but you're going to have to take the air out of the basketball. So definitely make sure you have a basketball pen, because if you think you're going to cut the basketball with a blade, you're going to be strongly mistaken. You're also going to need edge paint to paint the exposed sides of the basketball once we cut into it. You guys will see what I'm talking about more a little later. And something to rub your edge paint on with. I have this little roller, but you can literally use like a paintbrush. You don't have to go invest in a roller. And they sell smaller versions of this for about $2. So this is the brand I'm using. Boom. You're going to need some nylon thread as well that matches the color of the basketball. So I found this orange thread. It's literally perfect. You cannot see it once you start sewing with this color. So get you some nylon thread that matches the color of the basketball. Cotton probably won't work because cotton isn't strong enough. It'll probably break when you're just trying to pull the needle through. So definitely invest in some nylon thread or clear transparent thread, because I know that can be much cheaper than this because you have to buy a lot of this sometimes. You're also going to need a blade or some type of knife to cut the basketball open. So I have my box cutter here as well as my hook knife. I'm going to show you guys the hardware that I purchased and that I use for this bag. but you don't have to get the same exact hardware as me. You just have to get something that works similar so that you can attach the top handle to the bag. So I use these little U-shaped things here to attach the handle to my handbag. Essentially, these are like a little arc-shaped thing with holes at the bottom. They come with screws, so you just put holes in the bag and then you put the screws through and screw these arcs onto the bag, and then it creates like a nice little latch for you to hook anything onto or for you to like put chain through. If you're using the hardware I'm using, you're gonna need 4 O-rings, 2 small U-rings, and 4 large U-rings. To attach the little arcs onto the bag, you're also gonna need a screwdriver. I have this little one here, but it does the job. You're also gonna need a rotary punch or something that you can use to make holes in your bag. You're also gonna need some sort of plier, a needle nose plier, or like a thick plier like this will work fine. You should also grab you some binder clips as well for this project. Also get you a white or any color that is visible on the basketball so you can draw with, because we're gonna have to make a lot of marks on the basketball before we cut into it. Alright you guys, I think that's everything, so let's go ahead and get into this video. So I have my basketball here, and I also have this pattern that I created previously. This pattern is gonna represent the size of the opening that I want the basketball to be. So I'm gonna take my pattern, line it up to the center of the basketball, going down this middle center line, and tape it right in the middle, and then using my white gel pen, I'm just gonna mark it so that I know where my opening of my basketball is gonna be. Now that I have my basketball all marked, I'm gonna use the first initial marks that I made to go off of and make my other marks. 2 3/8 away from this curvy line, so I'm gonna measure up 2 3/8. And now I'm gonna do 1 1/4 inches away from our line that we drew. So mine should go somewhere right there. So I placed the hardware where I wanted it. I just adjusted it a little bit to make sure that it was even from my line that we drew. And now I'm just gonna take my white gel pen and slowly lift it and mark it right there. And now for my first large U, I like to go over 3 inches before I start the next one. So I'm gonna measure over 3 inches from our last mark. And that's 3 inches. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stick the hardware on this mark that I made to see how wide I need to make it before I make my next hole. Or you could just measure the distance between these two holes right here and then mark that on your basketball. But I kind of just like to put it on the basketball and actually see where it's gonna land. So that looks good to me. So now I'm just gonna slowly lift this up and then put a mark exactly where I need to create the hole. Now I'm gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. So from this point right here, I'm gonna measure 3/8 up and put a mark. That's 3/8. I put some double-sided tape on my hardware, and now I'm just gonna stick it right here. Try to place it in the center of this line. Now that I have the hardware where I want it, I'm gonna slowly lift it and transfer the marks onto the basketball. So I put marks on my basketball to represent where I want to put my hardware, and this is how it looks. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take the air out from right here and then use my hook knife and cut this opening mark right here. So when extracting the air from the basketball, you don't have to take out all the air, but take out enough air so that the basketball isn't super tight, because you don't want this to burst when you make the first incision with the blade. And now I'm gonna push the air in the ball up towards the top where I made my lines near the center, just because I want it to be enough pressure there when I cut this open. Alright you guys, so I just cut open the center of the bag. That's probably the most nerve-wracking part of this whole entire project, because you definitely want to make sure you have a nice smooth line here. So yeah, it came out super good. So what I'm going to work on next is inserting the hardware onto the basketball. So I have my rotary punch handy, and I'm just going to use the smallest size that it comes with on here, and I'm just going to punch a hole in those marks that I made. And now I'm going to screw in my hardware at each of those holes. So all of your U-shaped hardware or arc-shaped hardware should come with the washer. So grab your washer and make sure you place it over the holes and then insert your screw. Now I'm going to drop some nail polish on the screw. You can either use like a crazy glue or clear nail polish. That's just to reinforce the hardware. Now I'm going to go ahead and spin it a few times, but not too tight. And then I'm going to put in my other screw. Make sure it goes through the hardware as well, through the washer as well. Push the screw up as much as possible and make sure that you have your washer in there. Now I'm just going to place this on top of the screw. And get my handy dandy screwdriver and screw it in. So when it's done, it should look something like this. Sturdy and nice and screwed on, and in the inside it's gonna look like this. Now I'm gonna do that about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more times, and then I'll be done attaching our hardware to the bag. So I've completed putting all the hardware into our basketball bag, and this is how it looks. So cute, it's really coming along. The next step is gonna be to edge paint the inside of the basketball. So this is how the edge looks now. And now I'm just gonna edge paint it orange to match the outside of the basketball. I'm gonna be using the brand Angular for my edge paint for this project, and I'm using the colors English Tan and Tangerine. I mixed them together till I got like the perfect orange color. And now with my little edge paint tool, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint the edges of the basketball. So this is how the handbag looks once I finish painting the edges of the basketball. I think it just looks better because it just blends in with the outside more, and it looks better than having like that black line. So this is how it looks. I like sewing the zipper into the basketball bag. I tried gluing it, but I haven't found a glue that is strong enough to hold this to the basketball. And also keep in mind that there's going to be a lot of tension on the zipper, and you're constantly going to be pulling it open to get inside of the bag. So you're going to want to sew this. So I started by measuring the opening of the basketball bag, and then I added about 1.5 inches to the top and 1.5 inches to the bottom of my zipper, and that's the length of my zipper. At the beginning of that 1.5 inches for the bottom, I went ahead and I put a zipper stopper towards the bottom just to stop the zipper and have it be like a nice clean stop. I then took my double-sided tape and taped it to the outside of the outer edges of the zipper. I removed the paper part off of the double-stick tape that was on my zipper, and now I'm going to show you guys how I insert it into the basketball bag. So I try to make it that my zipper ending is right in the center and right at that bottom edge. Then I start placing the zipper in. Now that I have my zipper where I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and start sewing. If you don't have one, you're gonna need a thimble for this project because it is so hard, even with a glover's needle, getting the needle through the basketball. So if you have a cylinder machine in your house just lying around, this is the perfect time to use that. But if you're like me and you don't, you're gonna have to get a needle and just get to sewing. Now utilizing our master pattern, we're gonna go ahead and cut out 2 foams using this pattern as a stencil. So now utilizing stay paper, I'm gonna go ahead and use my master pattern and cut out 4 of these. Stay paper is used in the handle basically to give the handle its shape. If you don't put stay paper in your handle, this is gonna like distort and it's gonna like crumble up in your hand and it won't keep the shape defined. So to make sure that we keep this same shape, we're gonna use stay paper to like stiffen this handle. Stay paper also comes in different directions, meaning that it may bend easily this way, but it won't bend easy this way. I'm gonna cut out 4 of these in total, but 2 for each handle. And I wanna do 1 going the opposite way for each handle. So I'm gonna have 1 that goes this way, for handle 1, and I'm also going to have one that goes this way for handle 1. Same for handle 2, I'm going to have one that goes this way for handle 2, and I'm also going to have one that goes this way for handle 2. That way, the two directions are fighting each other, and it's going to basically help you strengthen the handle. So now that I have my foam and my stays cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing the foam to the stays using my barge rubber cement. So I opted to use this really cool nylon fabric for my top handles because I didn't want to have to worry about skiving the leather, and I thought this would look really nice with the basketball. And now using my pattern where I added the allowance all around, the 3/8 all around, I'm going to go ahead and trace 4 of these. Now utilizing my rubber cement, I'm going to go ahead and glue these things together. You can also use double side tape, it's up to you. When gluing, make sure that you glue towards the center and not on the outer edge, because if you glue on the outer edge of this, when it dries, it'll start to collect lint and you don't want a linty handle. So now that my glue has dried and it's a little bit tacky, I'm going to go ahead and line them up at this top edge first and then stick them together. So now I have both of my handles glued together. Foam on one side and chipboard on the other, and now I'm just going to go ahead and use my edge foot and sew all around the perimeter of this handle. So I finished sewing my handles, and now all that's left is to get these grommeted. Make sure you mark off on this where you would like to put the grommets at, to just make it way easier when you ask someone to put the grommets in for you. Alright you guys, so now I'm going to show you all how to make a raw edge handle using your leather. I already have one, so I'm just going to be showing you guys how to do it on a little test piece I created. This is how a raw edge handle looks, just in case you don't know. This is the handle I'm going to be using for the shoulder strap. So if you could see, there's a layer of leather on top, bonded leather in the middle, and then on the back there is another layer of leather. And then I just cut it raw edge, and I did a stitch all around it. And you can paint the edges of this black or whatever color you want. So in order to create your own raw edge handle, you're going to need to get 2 pieces of leather that are long enough for your pattern, as well as bonded leather for the center and some rubber cement. So this handle is like really simple and it looks really good, which is why it's one of my favorites. So you just put glue on the bonded leather. Put glue on the leather. So now that my glue is all dry, I'm just going to stack the layers together. So I'll put the bonded leather on top of the leather piece I have here. If you have a bone folder, what kind of looks like this, you can smooth it out. But if you don't have a bone folder, use like a pencil or something, like improvise. Then I'm going to put another layer of glue on the back of this bonded leather. Attach our other piece of leather. So I'm just going to lay it on top like a little sandwich, smooth it out. So now that I have my layers glued together, I'm going to go ahead and grab my pattern. My pattern is longer than my test strip, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you guys how I would cut this. Sit it right there, and then I would take my ruler, line it up with my pattern, and then it should look a little something like this when you're done. Pretty much create like a bonded leather sandwich, leather on the top, bonded leather, and leather on the bottom. You can use another color leather on the bottom if you want. It doesn't have to be the same. You don't have to worry about skiving it if you're doing it raw edge. So that's why I love doing it this way, and I like the style of this as well. If you want to cover up this edge and you don't want to see that brown in the middle, you should take some edge paint, like a black one or whatever color you want, and just paint the edges of that really quickly. And yeah, that's it. Now you can't leave it glued. You actually have to sew this together because rubber cement is temporary, so you're going to want to lock it in. So I usually would use like an edge foot and then just go all around this and then lock it in, and then it's perfect for your handle. All right, you guys, so this is how the basketball should look after you placed in your hardware and sewed on your zipper. I actually did a little kitchen show move on you guys because this is the basketball that I created previously. So if you see some mistakes on this bag, it's because it was the first one I learned how to make and I'm still learning, but this one still looks pretty good to me. And your handle should look a little something like this after you put in the grommets or get it grommeted. Strap is going to look something like this after you put in the rivets. You can see that I put in my D-rings and then I turned it over the D-ring and then I inserted the rivet. So I purchased a yard of chain and I split it in two so that I can attach it to either side of my D-ring. So I'm going to attach one piece of the chain to this side and one piece of the chain to this side. In order to open and close my chain, I got this really cool tool. It kind of works like the opposite of a plier, so you can just slip this in the opening of the chain and then force it open and it'll make the chain open. But if you don't have one of these tools, you can grab yourself a regular needle nose plier, but you are going to need two so that you can like pull them and twist the chain open and then twist it back. So I find the slit on the chain. I slip my tool through that slit and then I just open it a little bit. Put it back in there and then use my needle nose plier to close it back. So now that I successfully attached the chain to my leather shoulder strap, I'm gonna attach the chain to the basketball. So now you want to grab your O-rings. I have the ones that open, so I'm just going to slip them onto these little hardwares that I attached to the basketball bag previously. And now your basketball bag is all done.
Run that shit, run it back. Baby, baby, drive me crazy.